Julian here, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make lo-fi house like mall grab. As usual, you can get the project file and samples from this video in the description on my Bandcamp for just $5 is the first link. You can't miss it. And yeah, let's dive in. So, first layer I have here is this synth. We're at 121 BPM, and its lead synth sounds like this. So the way I made this is pretty simple. It's just a little bit of FM synthesis with operator and some reverb and some saturation. As far as the notes go, I'm just playing this thing in A minor. I mean, it's pretty simple. I kind of just wrote this melody. I was going for one of those like softer, kind of smooth synth melodies like I hear a lot in Mulgrave's tracks, and I think I got it pretty down. As far as writing these kind of lines, I mean, I would just recommend, try to play around with different scales and stuff. And try to come up with like hooks. Like, for example, here I have this little thing. And you can see it repeats at the end there. And then I also have this little thing. That's kind of like, those aren't like, hooks like in the same sense as like pop music. But it's a hook in the sense that it's something that repeats and it allows you to kind of like sink your teeth into it a little bit more. It's a little bit more memorable that way. So yeah. Now, as far as the synth sound goes, like I said, it's just a little bit of FM synthesis and operator. All I have is oscillator 1 and 2 here. The first one is just a sine wave with a little bit of attack and this short little pluck envelope. The second one is also a sine wave with no attack, but a very short little kind of like decay, which you can hear. It kind of has like this sort of like 90s pan flute keyboard type sound, which is what I was going for. So yeah, and then after that I have the saturator. So the saturator actually kind of does a lot to the sound. I'm using it on this wave shaper mode, and this is doing very similar to what FM synthesis would do in the sense that we're working with adding and subtracting harmonics from the sound. The way this wave shaper is working is it's working with the waveform to sort of like I said, add and subtract harmonic content from the sound and thus changing it. So here is with the saturator and no reverb, and then here's when I take it off. So you can hear it still has that kind of, like I was saying, like old school like 90s keyboard pan flute type of sound, but when you put it on, it also has a little bit of drive on there, so that's helping. It really just gives it that last little bit of like oomph to really take it over the edge, I suppose. So yeah, so I recommend playing around with that when you have these kind of like more sine wave oriented leads. Oops. So then the last thing I have on here is just a reverb, pretty simple. Yeah, it's just sort of giving it the kind of like spaciness. Now the next thing I have here is this bass, which sounds like this. This is pretty simple. I'm just playing this bass line that's in A minor as well. I didn't want it to follow the lead too closely because like, I don't know, I just thought it would sound kind of corny. So I just wrote this bass line that sort of works with the lead. And you can hear at the end it does sort of do that little hook thing I was talking about. But yeah, so this sound is really simple. It's just 2 sine waves and operator. A little bit of FM because we have the second one up just a little tiny bit and the chorus pitch is at 2. But I can show you what that isn't really making a huge difference. It's just adding a little bit of like lower mids to the sound to make it a little bit more audible. Like the thing is that this can't just be all low end sub, because then when you hear it like on a phone or like on a any kind of thing like that, it's just gonna sound, you're not really gonna be able to hear it on like those kind of smaller speakers. So you need to have a little bit of sort of mid to the sound, so you can also hear it on smaller speakers. Now, I also have the saturator on here. I have a little bit of drive, and I played around with the analog clip a little bit to shape the sound. So you can hear it similar to the lead. This is really just like beefing it up and giving it that last little bit of oomph, like I was saying. So yeah, you can hear, again, it's just making it a little bit more rough around the edges and giving it a little bit more grit. Now, the next thing I'll show you is a kick, which sounds like this. And this kick, really, it's not much to it. As you can see, I don't have any processing on it at all. It's really, with this, it's more about sample selection. Like, I chose a kick that I had that was just like a really nice, beefy, like, just thick, huge kick like that. Like, I've heard a lot of Mulgrave's tracks, and he tends to go for these kind of kicks, the like bigger, boomier ones. And they really do work quite well in this style. Like in lo-fi house in general, I recommend looking for kicks like this. So yeah, just like a big boomy kick. Now next thing I will show you is this, which sounds like this. It's just these hi-hats. So the way I did this was I put a bunch of hi-hat samples, well, really just 3, in a drum rack here. And you can see I have an open hi-hat and then 2 closed hi-hats. They're very similar, but they're just slightly different. And then you can see I have the open hi-hat playing on all the upbeats. I also have that one. But you can see I have the open hi-hat playing on all the upbeats, so like that. And then I have these ones just giving it a little bit of accent and a little bit of swing. You can see they're really just playing on the 16 notes, and they're also swung a little bit. So if I quantize this, I literally just grab these and move them over to the right a little bit, and thus giving it like a little bit of swing. So yeah, really not too much there. It's just really about finding some cool samples, and then giving them that pattern. Now I did do one more thing on here that I want to talk about a little bit. As you can see, I have this EQ8 doing a low pass there. So what I did was, you can hear that doesn't really sound very lo-fi house on its own. So what I did was I just took this EQ8 and I turned on this one, and I have it doing like this kind of filter, so it's a low pass. And then right around the point where like around there, right about where you want this to cut off, I have a bit of a boost in the Q, you can see. What that does is it just kind of helps to mimic the old kind of like cassette tape vinyl sound. Like a lot of that stuff that people like from those different types of like processing for your sounds is like, what it's doing is it's making it sound kind of lo-fi, and this is a great way to do that. Giving it that little Q boost with the EQ, and the little low pass filter really, really helps, I find. So yeah, that's just how I did the hi-hats. Next thing is this clap. Pretty straightforward. Same thing. It's just a nice clap sample. I'll show you the dry sample. Just a nice, powerful clap that's pretty short, and it works well with the kick too. Not all claps work with all kicks, so you kind of have to like work them together. But overall, these drums work together pretty well. Now, the only processing I have on the clap is just this little low-pass filter. Same thing as the hi-hats, just cutting out the real high end and then giving it a little Q boost there. And yeah, so the next layer we have is this little bongo layer. So the way I made this was I took these 2 different bongo samples, I turned off this auto filter, and then I just made this kind of pattern with them, which doesn't really sound like that realistic when you play it on its own, but if I turn this low-pass filter back on, that helps a lot to make it sound kind of like older and sampled. And then also when you play it in the full mix, it kind of like, it gives the illusion a little bit more. Like it makes it a little bit more kind of like sampled sounding. So that's why I wasn't too concerned with doing it this way. But yeah, so I just put these in a drum rack and then made the pattern, and then I put this low pass filter on. Same thing as I was doing with the EQ, like on the clap and the hi-hats, but I just did it with an auto filter, I guess. And yeah, it just makes it kind of like lo-fi. And the last thing I have here is the shaker. Pretty simple. It's just a nice shaker loop, and I put a low pass filter on there. And really the point of these 2 layers, because I just wanted to go a little bit deeper. So really the point of these 2 layers is just to add a little bit more percussion. Like the thing about Mulgrave's style that I've heard a lot is he tends to use a lot of different percussion like this. It's not usually just like a kick and some hi-hats and a clap. So I wanted to add these to kind of fill the beat out a little bit more, and I think it really helps too, especially since we have very sparse melodics here. Like it's really just this lead and this bass line, and this is how a lot of Mulgrave tracks are. It helps to sort of fill it out a little bit with the percussion. So yeah, that's really it for this video. Like I said, the main things to think about are like the kind of softer synth melodies, and then having the cool bass line that fits with those. And then with the drums, like I said, really main things to think about are like the bigger, boomier kick, and then having the kind of more percussive sounds in the background as well. So that's going to be it for today, guys. Make sure to let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. Once again, you can get the project file as well as all of my social media in the description. So make sure to follow me and also check out the project file. And I will see you guys again tomorrow with another tutorial.